Most people think of city water as something passive. It comes out of the tap when you turn the handle. It stops when you turn it back. Somewhere far away, there's a treatment plant. Pipes carry water in. Pipes carry water out. It feels mechanical, predictable, finished. The system feels old, stable, and largely solved. That assumption makes sense. For decades, municipal water has been framed as basic infrastructure, built once, maintained quietly, governed by physical rules, gravity, pressure, chemistry, steel and concrete doing their job in the background. But that surface understanding is incomplete. Modern city water systems no longer operate purely on fixed schedules and static engineering rules. Increasingly, they are monitored, adjusted, and optimized by software systems that never touch the water directly. Systems that watch, compare, predict, and intervene, not loudly, not visibly, but continuously. What looks like a pipe network is now also an information network, and the water flowing beneath the streets is only part of what's moving. The common mental model is simple. Water is collected from a source. It's treated to meet safety standards. It's stored in reservoirs or towers. From there, it flows through pipes to homes, offices, and factories. Pressure is controlled by valves and elevation. Usage rises in the morning, drops overnight. Engineers design the system to handle peak demand. Maintenance crews fix leaks when they're found. In this model, decision-making happens slowly. Human operators monitor gauges. Scheduled inspections catch problems. If something breaks, alarms go off and people respond. The system is reactive. It waits for issues to appear. This way of thinking made sense when cities were smaller. Demand patterns were predictable, and infrastructure changed slowly. It also matched how utilities explained themselves to the public. Reliable, boring, unchanging. But over time, this model started to fail in small, quiet ways. Cities grew unevenly. Industrial demand shifted by the hour. Aging pipes behaved differently under stress. Weather patterns became less predictable. Leaks appeared in places no one was watching. Pumps ran harder than expected. Energy costs fluctuated. The physical system didn't stop working, but it stopped behaving in ways humans could easily anticipate, using static rules alone. That gap is where automation entered. Underneath the familiar water infrastructure sits a layer of sensors: pressure sensors, flow meters, turbidity sensors, chlorine monitors, temperature gauges. Some are installed at treatment plants. Others are buried in access points along pipelines. Some sit at the edges of neighborhoods. Some are attached to individual facilities. These sensors generate continuous streams of data, not summaries, not occasional readings, constant measurement, pressure every second, flow rate changes minute by minute, chemical balance drifting subtly throughout the day. That data feeds into control systems known as supervisory control and data acquisition platforms, SCADA systems. At first, these systems simply displayed information, digital dashboards replacing analog dials. Humans still made the decisions. But as the volume of data grew, human oversight became a bottleneck. Patterns emerged that no operator could see in real time. Small fluctuations that meant nothing alone started to matter in combination. This is where algorithmic control begins. Modern water systems use software models that compare current conditions to historical patterns. They don't just ask what is happening. They ask what usually happens next. They forecast demand by neighborhood. They anticipate pressure drops before they occur. They simulate the impact of opening or closing valves across the network. In many cities, these models automatically adjust pump speeds, valve positions, and chemical dosing without waiting for human approval. Not because humans are absent, but because reaction time matters. A pressure imbalance can travel faster than a phone call. These systems are not artificial intelligence in the science fiction sense. They don't think. They don't understand water. But they do optimize. They minimize energy use. They reduce stress on aging pipes. They smooth demand spikes. They keep values within acceptable ranges. The key shift is that control no longer happens at a single point. It's distributed. Decisions are made continuously across the network, based on probabilities rather than fixed thresholds. A small pressure anomaly in one district might trigger a pump adjustment miles away. A slight chemical drift could alter treatment rates upstream before quality drops downstream. The system acts before failure becomes visible. This changes how water behaves at a city scale. Leaks used to be found when water surfaced or pressure dropped enough to be noticed. Now, algorithms detect them by identifying flow patterns that don't match expected usage. Water disappearing silently underground leaves a data fingerprint before it leaves a puddle. Demand used to be met by overbuilding capacity. Now it's managed dynamically. Pumps ramp up and down to match real-time need. Storage tanks are filled and drained based on predicted consumption, not just time of day. Even maintenance has shifted. Instead of fixed replacement schedules, some systems flag pipes for inspection based on stress history and anomaly frequency. The pipe hasn't failed yet, but statistically, it's behaving like one that will. The water itself hasn't changed. The decision-making around it has. These underlying structures create effects that most people never associate with water. Energy use becomes tightly coupled to data quality. A faulty sensor can cause pumps to run harder than necessary, increasing costs without any visible problem at the tap. The water still flows. The inefficiency stays hidden. System resilience changes shape. Automated control can respond faster to certain failures, but it can also amplify errors if models are wrong. A miscalculated demand forecast can propagate adjustments across the network, stressing components in unexpected ways. Human oversight shifts from direct control to supervision. Operators become managers of models rather than valves. They intervene less often, but when they do, it's at a higher level of abstraction, adjusting parameters instead of turning wheels. There's also a subtle shift in accountability. When decisions are automated, outcomes are harder to attribute. A pressure failure might result from a model assumption made years earlier, not a real-time mistake. Responsibility becomes distributed, just like control, and the system becomes more sensitive to cyber and data integrity risks. The water doesn't need to be touched to be influenced. Control happens through information. Corrupted inputs can alter physical behavior without ever opening a pipe. None of this makes the system malicious. It doesn't have intent. It doesn't optimize for anything beyond what it's been told to value. Efficiency, stability, compliance. But it does mean that the city's water is no longer governed purely by physical laws and human judgment. It's governed by models of behavior, by statistical expectations, by software quietly deciding what normal should look like, moment to moment. From the outside, nothing appears different. The tap still turns. The glass still fills. The water still tastes the same. But beneath the surface, the system is constantly comparing reality to prediction, adjusting flows, anticipating stress, smoothing uncertainty. Understanding this doesn't require fear or admiration. It requires a shift in perspective. City water isn't just delivered anymore. It's managed as a living system of feedback loops, physical infrastructure guided by invisible decision layers, pipes following rules written in code rather than manuals. Once you see that, the water coming out of the tap feels less like a static utility and more like the output of a continuous negotiation between demand, risk, and constraint. Not controlled by a single machine, not watched by a single mind, but quietly shaped all the same.